So here we are. We're 3 weeks in. Can you believe it? 21 days of the Red Letter Revolution and only 3 days after this. And, it's been really good doing this, like just revisiting these words that have meant so much to me in my life and pretty much have shaped the person that I am and the person I'm becoming. It's like hanging out with an old friend and being like, remember this, remember that. That's what it feels like. So today we are going to look at the words on the cross. We're going to look at it from Luke and from John. And these words have meant a lot to me. So here we go. I'm going to get into it with my Bible that my mama gave me. All right. So let's start from here. Then we're doing Luke 23:34-43 first. So then Jesus said, Creator, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they divided his garments and cast lots. And the people stood looking on. But even the rulers with them sneered, saying, He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ, the chosen of God. The soldiers also mocked him, coming and offering him sour wine, and saying, If you are king of the Jews, save yourself. And an inscription also was written over him in letters of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. This is the King of the Jews. Then one of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed him, saying, If you are the Christ, save yourself and us. But the other, answering, rebuked him, saying, Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said to him, Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. So in that little bit, there's so much, right? One is this like insane radical forgiveness to witness people who you've tried to serve and you've loved the best that you can. You try to correct them, get them on the right path, and still they just keep doing what they're doing. And at the end of the day, where you can say, forget you suckers, instead you say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So, and you probably can tell I'm getting a little sensitive and I'm trying to keep it together. But one of the reasons this means so much to me is because for so long I really just like identified with these teachings. Like I would say my identity was in these teachings. And then when I had a break from my church back in like 1999 time frame, when I'll just be honest, they were kicking me when I was down. It was maddening, for lack of a better expression, because I really did wrap up a lot of my identity in trying to be a good Christian. And then because they told me I wasn't a real Christian, because I just asked them basically, if there's so many people who aren't from our tradition, who weren't lucky enough basically to be born into our tradition, because we thought we were among the lucky 144,000. Like, shouldn't we love those folks more while we're on earth, because they are not, like, sometimes not loved on earth. Speaking specifically of people that's like, from certain identities like LGBTQ and different stuff like that. It's like, shouldn't we love them more here because they're treated poorly here? Especially as black people, we know what it's like to be treated poorly. So I was like, hey, we know what it's like to be treated not great. Why don't we just treat people like the way our scriptures treat them the way we want to be treated? And then also, because the way they were teaching me at the time, those people were also going to like the hot place after this. So I was like, well, why don't we love them here, man? It's like the only chance they got to get loved. Why don't we love them here? And boy, those suckers turned on me quick. Good night. They used to tell me I was going to be a preacher. Then I said something like, dare to love some people. They were like, get out of here. Not everybody. I ain't going to act like it was everybody, but good enough people were kicking me while I was down, because I was also going through a personal relational situation. And it was something. And I thought about all the things I did trying to be a good Christian. And then I ended up, these people told me I wasn't a real Christian. They told me God was turning God's back on me and everything. They just went gangster with me, man. And I was like, what is happening? And I didn't know. I really didn't understand. I was young. I was in my early 20s. And so out of reaction, I tried to be an atheist. And I was like, man, because I started thinking about all the things that trying to be a Christian held me back from. And I don't mean like going out doing partying and all stuff like that, but just logic. Just logic and science and other things. I was like, man, I'm listening to these dudes. And I thought about how like the church didn't let my mom preach and all sort of stuff like that. So I was kind of purifying myself from this junk. And then the craziest thing is I was going through trying to forgive some people, because whether I believed in God or not, I was just like, hey, let me just forgive, because I didn't like the feeling I felt on my body by trying to hold grudges. So I was trying to clear it, and I could not think of a logical reason to forgive the people I was trying to forgive. And so I said, whatever. I guess I'll just forgive them because they don't really know what they're doing anyway. As soon as I said that, I was like, oh, snap. That's basically forgive them for they know not what they do. And all of a sudden, with or without the miracles and the virgin birth and all the dogmatic things that came with Christianity, the simple, like, miracle of a human forgiving people, and not just forgiving them later, but forgiving them actively, like real time forgiveness while they're doing the thing. And I was like, then that's when I could say how Job said, I heard about you with the ears, but now my eyes see you, about God after he went through his ordeals. That's how I felt about Christ. I felt like I heard about you with the ears, but now my eyes see you. And what I see is this human capacity to love so much, and not a Pollyanna like da-da-da love, but to love so much that you give yourself, not in a martyr way or a victim way, but just in a loving way to say, like, man, there's better for us and we're missing it. And I just was like, man, I want to know that. And so I started getting cool with Jesus again. And the miracles and all that stuff like that is like, if they happen, they happen. But the real thing is like, how can we be as human as we possibly can, knowing that we're living in this temporary situation, but the spirit that animates us is eternal? And how can we identify with that power that made him say, forgive them for they know not what they do while they're doing what they're doing? And then in the form of these two dudes, one of them, I know they call them Didymus. The rebels, I heard that they were rebels, not like criminals, but they were criminals only because they were trying to fight the oppressive system, and they were getting what they got for fighting the oppressive system. That's what I read somewhere else. But at any rate, when this guy was like, hey, remember me, that guy hadn't done the sinner's prayer, the Apostles' Creed. He hadn't read these books that came hundreds of years later, or any of these epistles or anything like that. He was just like, yo, remember me. And then Jesus was like, bet. Yeah, you're going to be with me in paradise. You're going to be with me in this like awakened consciousness. Like, that's how cool is that? All the stuff that we put people through, and it was just like, remember me. Like, make me a member again of this oneness that you have with God. So I said, man, I got to try my best to live like that, because the only way I'm going to know if this is true is if I try to live it. So I try. I don't do the greatest sometimes, but it's worth the effort. And it's definitely shapes the context of who I'm in the process of becoming and who I've tried to be. But it's not really about me. It's really about all of us. Like, I feel like Jesus came to show us, to help us see that the things that we use to limit us, like the fear of death, is robbing us of the reality of who we are. And so he might have feared it, but he didn't get controlled by it. And if we can find a way in our hearts to not live from the fear of death, so that we don't see everything and everyone as threats, but we can live from the light and the life of love, which is the essence of like what is keeping us moving in the first place. And then we could see a whole other reality. And that's what I want for everybody. That's what I'm trying to live myself. That's what I'm trying to put out here. So there's that. So let's get to John 19:26-30 and see these words that they touch on. So here we go, 19:26-30. So it says, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, that disciple took her to his own home. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scriptures might be fulfilled, said, "I thirst." Now a vessel full of sour wine was sitting there, and they filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on hyssop, and put it to his mouth. So when he had received sour wine, he said, "It is finished." And bowing his head, he gave up his spirit. So, I mean, the big words over here, like "it is finished." Some historians say that those words, "it is finished," were basically the same words that would be put on like a ledger. If somebody owed somebody money and they paid off that debt, they would say "it is finished." Or the translation would be what we have translated here is "it is finished," or King James or whatever. And also, it shows that Jesus was also caring for his mom while he was dying. And it's saying like he looked at his disciple and he was just like, "That's your son now." And the guy was like, "All right, I'll take care of your mom." So even when he was on his way out, he was like looking out for still looking out for other people on his way out. And then he did what he had to do. It was nothing else he could give. And so he said, "It's finished." And then it says he gave up his spirit. So that's actually a very powerful statement too, because sometimes like when you die, you feel like you don't have power over that. But he's saying he gave up his spirit. And from a supernatural perspective, you could say, well, he could have just been like, "Nah, I ain't dying." But I don't think that he did that, because I think he wholly, WHOLLY, lived into being human. And so, whether he could or couldn't have, he gave up his spirit. He let his spirit go under the wounds and the things that he had been, his body had been subjected to. So he didn't resist his death. And I think that part of living a whole and full life is kind of knowing how to not resist your death in every moment, whether you're in, a sickness, whether it's just like things changing in your life that feel terrifying. Death is a part of life. And even though sometimes it's the part that we don't want to participate in, it's here. It's part of our life, man. We got to deal with it, and I think facing it helps us live like a real life. And, as we close out on these teachings, I hope that they've added to your life, and that Christ a little bit more through these words, and not in a religious way, not in a he's going to punish you way if you don't do what he tells you to do, not in a Superman Jesus kind of way where he grants your wishes and like beats up your enemies or whatever psychotic thing that we've been taught, but in a real practical human living your life, indwelling Christ, never apart from you, as close as your breathing way. Because man, like I once told my ex, she was like, asked me some question, and I told her, sometimes I feel like the richest person on earth, and everybody around me is like, "I'm poor, I'm impoverished. Oh, help me. And then I say, "Oh, here, this is what you need, and this will give you like all the stuff you need in life." And they'll say, "I'll pass." That's what it feels like sometimes. And it's not, it's kind of strange, because at the same time that I got kicked out of the fundamentalist church, and I'm in this progressive movement now. There are some, I guess, what I would call fundamentals here, but they're not like the way that it gets taught in a lot of these churches. And I would say, just like Jesus said, you know a tree by its fruits. You know a tree by its fruits, right? And if you are, don't feel this life and this love moving through you, through in the community that you're in, with the people that you share life with, and especially sitting in a room by yourself or seemingly by yourself, if you can't access this joy that he came to make complete, then the tree isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. And when Jesus saw a tree that wasn't bearing fruit like it was supposed to, he was like, psh, you're never going to grow anything again. So he was not about that tree not bearing fruit. And so, only you know. But I hope that you, whether you came across this video randomly or whether you've been a part of the Red Letter Revolution class that we've been doing, I hope that you feel that much closer to the source of your life. Well, that's it. Got 3 more days. Thank you.